This ABC 15 flash briefing is sponsored by Sanderson Ford. Straight up.
Hello, I'm Danielle Lerner with your top stories from ABC15 Arizona. We are tracking the latest on coronavirus. Arizona flying past Friday's 1 million case milestone. Nearly 6,000 cases above that number now and showing no signs of slowing. The state also reporting 55 COVID-related deaths. That is more than half as many reported in California today, despite us having a fraction of that state's population. There is, however, another milestone providing a bit of hope tonight. As of Saturday, 4 million people in Arizona have now received the vaccine. The Arizona Department of Health Services reminding everyone that the unvaccinated are at a greater risk for hospitalizations and death. Meantime, a massive new study is shedding a grim light on just how widespread the coronavirus was last year. It says 1 in 3 Americans had the virus by the end of 2020, and that less than a quarter of those cases were officially recorded. COVID testing wasn't readily available at the start of the pandemic, so to get exact numbers, researchers used available data to simulate disease transmission. They found more than 60% of the population in Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Dakotas were infected in 2020. The study also found the number of fatalities dropped when stronger public health measures like mask mandates were put in place. Your voice, your vote on the 58th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, an indelible call for civil rights. Today, protests here in our state, Texas, and Washington, D.C. over concerns that new efforts to change voting laws may be a giant step backward in Dr. King's vision. Here at home, residents rallying, joining advocates from across the country, calling for a federal law that would wipe out voting restrictions, advancing in our state and across the country. Republican lawmakers saying new voter ID laws here improve election security, but activists say that's not what it's really about.
It's not just about showing an ID. It's about being purged from the voter roll. It's about the permanent vote, access to the permanent voting list. This is called the permanent voting list for a reason. You shouldn't be purged because you missed one election or what have you. So I think that this is not about reinforcing it. It's about making it more difficult for people to participate in the election, and we need to stop that.
So the rallies here and across the country, those who participated say, were intended to increase pressure on Democrats to rewrite procedural rules that would allow them to muscle voter protection legislation through without Republican votes. But they were also aimed at coaxing President Joe Biden to become a more forceful advocate on this issue. At the same time, more delays in Arizona's election audit. The report was supposed to be turned over last Monday, but that deadline has now been pushed back because CEO and staff from Cyber Ninjas, the company that performed the audit, are now dealing with coronavirus. An update to a story ABC 15 has been following closely. The medical examiner officially ruling a missing Camelback hiker died from heat exposure. You might remember Angela Tremonti was hiking with a Phoenix police officer before she turned back around. The medical examiner now officially saying her death was accidental. Now that part wasn't in question, but Tremonti's family and friends, well, they're still wondering why the officer she was with let her walk back alone. And new today, the search continues for a missing geologist. Daniel Robinson vanished almost a month ago now. This group out looking for him on Saturday. The chief investigator says dogs picked up Daniel's scent about a quarter mile from his car. So that's where people focus their efforts today. They still don't know why Daniel was in the area. Investigators, though, say his car does appear to have been involved in some type of an accident prior to him getting out.
Tracking your most accurate forecast, I'm meteorologist Jorge Torres. Very hot temperatures are still in the forecast for the rest of your weekend. Starting off with temperatures here in the valley in the mid-80s at 6 a.m., climbing into the 100s by noon, and we are anticipating a high of 108 degrees to wrap up your Sunday. And it's going to be hot across much of western Arizona as excessive heat warnings remain in effect through the day tomorrow. Highs anywhere from 109 in Quartzsite to 116 in Lake Havasu, and down in Tucson calling for a high of 102 to wrap up the weekend, and 80s up in the high country and along the rim. But the potential for storms ramps up next week thanks to the help from the monsoon and from Hurricane Nora still developing and churning along the Pacific coast of Mexico. So I have to monitor that storm for you very carefully, which will drop our temperatures next week, but also bring that flood risk once again across Arizona. Your 7-day forecast showing highs tomorrow at 108, but cooling down next week, 105 on Monday, 100 on Tuesday, and in the 90s by Wednesday. Again, all depending on Nora and its track for our forecast next week.
This ABC 15 Flash Briefing is sponsored by Sanderson Ford. Straight up.